Hey everyone, welcome back to Sophomore Citizens. I'm Gigi.
I'm Liesel.
And I'm Lilly.
All right, so today's episode is going to be themed all around the pursuit of love and romance, specifically the pursuit that people choose to do on reality television shows. But before we get into that, we would like to start our check-in, which is brought to you by our friend Riley, shout out, who decided to let me know that on Etsy, you can go ahead and contact a psychic who will draw a photo of your soulmate. So when I heard that this was available, I rushed over to Etsy and I bought one for all three of us, a drawing of our future soulmate. The only information that was provided to the psychic was our first name, our age, and our gender, not even our sexual preference or, identity in that way. So kind of interesting. And Lilly, I want to start out with you. How did you react to the photo and description of your soulmate?
Certainly nothing like I expected in my head when Liesel told me that she did nothing other than commissioned a psychic to draw my soulmate. I had visions, and this photo, this description, they did not match my visions. So in one word, I was shocked.
Right. Gigi.
Mine looked kind of like he would be a teenager currently. And I don't really, see myself ever dating a teenager ever again in my whole life.
Hopefully not.
And the ending statement was this man will be 5 years old. I think it's important that we mention that this woman, it seems as if English was not her first language. So some of the writing was definitely a bit interesting to try and decipher.
Yeah.
One such as this man will be 5 years old. So this very well could be he's 5 years older than me. I'll meet him in 5 years. Who knows what the intention is with that statement. But just kind of a funny thing. She also told me that Aphrodite, or whoever the F love goddess, likes me, which I like to know.
That's
did she name Aphrodite specifically?
I don't think she named... but she said
she
something.
said like the goddess of love but it holds you dear or something like that.
No, but it wasn't even just as common as the goddess of love. It was something more intense than that, I remember.
All right, well, we'll have to go back. Should I read aloud our descriptions?
No, I don't think that's necessary. I think the gist is really what's more important. But, if you are curious to know what our soulmates look like, head over to YouTube where we will be displaying what the images look like.
Yeah, right. And we can post them on the Sophomore Citizens Instagram
as well. Yeah.
Sure.
So you should be able to see our soulmates. And, I think that there was obviously the hope that one of the photos would match someone that we currently have known.
Liesel, you didn't speak on yours.
I know, I was getting into it.
Okay, sorry.
I was just gonna say that the hope was that we would maybe see, recognize a face or two, right, and be like, oh my god, that person's my soulmate. I do think that given my, ripe age of 24, I did receive a man who looked a little older. And who I was not particularly attracted to in any way, shape, or form. The description of him was interesting. He's supposed to be tall, which I do appreciate. Thank you. And he's going to be a Scorpion, which I am also a Scorpion. So I don't know how well that match would go. In my opinion, I feel like it might be a little too intense. But yeah, so I was not attracted to my man, and unfortunately, I don't hope for him to be my soulmate, but if he is, I will accept him with open arms.
And unfortunately, I don't think that this led me closer to finding love and being that the pandemic has been going on for close to a year now. That is a year setback of me finding my soulmate, which obviously the clock is ticking, and we need to get on that. So if anyone listening to this podcast thinks that you yourself might be my soulmate, please reach out to me, because obviously this effort did not go too well. And I'm still in search of you if you are out there. Thank you.
But I do think that, this check-in is a great, perfect segue into the kind of topic of our episode, which, a lot of the dating shows nowadays, I think, do bring in an element of soulmate.
Sure.
And personally, I on the record, don't believe in soulmates. I personally believe that there are lots of people out there on this earth that you could potentially form a loving, long-lasting, amazing relationship with, and that it's not limited to one person in particular. Do you girls have any thoughts on soulmates?
I mean, I definitely I agree with you, Liesel. I can get down with the terminology of soulmates when it is, in the context of multiple, but I think soulmate, in the traditional sense of like there is only one and like that's it. I don't necessarily vibe with that.
Yeah.
I agree with Gigi. I also would just like to add, I really believe that there are different types of soulmates. So I definitely think you have friend soulmates, romantic soulmates, etc. But I do think I believe in soulmates much more than you do, Liesel, but not one person that I am searching for that I'm going to find and all is going to be fixed. But I do believe that I will find my soulmate or one of my soulmates.
Yeah, there's any number of them out there.
I mean, and Lily, I do believe that you're one of our soulmates.
Yes, 1000%.
On a friendship level.
Why I said that I believe in friendship soulmates is really because of the relationships that I have with the two of you. That I know in my soul, like this was mated to be
made and like
Fated.
formed by the gods up in heaven before we came down to earth. I agree. For today's episode, we wanted to take something that we love very much, which is the reality TV, dating, and romance genre of shows, and turn it into something more quantitative, more quantifiable, to try to decide which dating show, reality, love, romance show is maybe the best, which are the worst, which excel in certain categories. And so Gigi and all of us together came up with a beautiful rating system to try to get to the bottom of which dating show reigns superior in a variety of categories. And at the end of this episode, we are going to sit together and try to devise what we would think would be the perfect dating reality TV show that will encompass all of our hopes and dreams. All right, now Gigi, would you like to tell us what shows we will be analyzing?
Sure. So our first, the big number one, I would argue, the one,
behemoth.
The only, the behemoth, Bachelor, Bachelorette, followed by Shoot Off, Bachelor in Paradise. Then we have Love Island, Married at First Sight, Too Hot to Handle, Are You the One, Love is Blind, and finally Dating Around. Most, if not all of these, are available to view on Netflix and or Hulu, HBO. These are all over your streaming platforms. So if there are any of these that you're unfamiliar with and you do like this genre of TV, we highly recommend all of these TV shows. So please, check them out if you feel called to do so.
And, if we don't love your favorite, that says nothing about you, or your preferences. These are just specifically our views, our preferences, and our recommendations to our beautiful community. So we basically chose a group of 5 main categories with then some bonus points on which we scored each of these shows on a scale from 1 to 10. So let's go through the categories. Lily, do you want to talk about the first category?
Yes. So the first category is the premise / idea, pretty self-explanatory, what the show is built on, its foundation, why it exists, its goal, its mission statement.
Yes. And I think that a big element of this is not only is it a good, fun, unique, interesting idea and premise of a show, how well do they execute on the premise that they have promised us? So that is a very important category to me personally, because that's the backbone of the show. Right?
Absolutely.
Totally.
Next up, romance. Obviously, that one's pretty self-explanatory. How much do we feel love, romance, and true partnership blooming?
Sure. Another, key element. I don't know what word I was searching for there, but there was something I wanted to say.
Yeah.
Another key element, we'll go with that for now, is drama. The drama element is so important and another backbone element to these TV shows.
Yes.
Totally. And next up, we have community / just the universe around the show. Now, this is probably like the broadest, most ambiguous category, but I'll kind of walk you through it a little bit. community. Like, how much is there a large audience for this show? How much is it publicly talked about, maybe tweeting, Instagramming, people making YouTube videos about? How much is there a community of fans and lovers of this show, watchers? How much is there a dialogue in day-to-day life about this show? But then on top of that, how lasting are the people who go on these shows? Do they stick around as Instagram influencers? Do they just go into obscurity? Do they form podcasts? Do they, is there like a community around the show? So to me, like, this category kind of encompasses anything that is outside of the universe of the show, but it still makes an impact on the show itself.
Yes.
And Lily, our final category?
No.
Well, our second to final category is...
we have 6. I didn't want to correct you.
We have 6 categories. Sorry, I forgot about one.
Okay, so our 5th category is enjoyment. When you are watching the show, how much are you loving it? How much are you not?
Right. Episode to episode, how are you feeling?
In the moment.
Do you get excited to watch?
Right.
Absolutely.
And the final category is casting. So this has to do with the individuals that they choose to be on this show. And I think that it is pretty clear which shows opt for more of an influencer cast, which opt for a more, common person cast. And I think that, it's very much tied into premise and idea. The casting has to follow.
Totally. And last but not least, we have 3 areas where you can gain 1 bonus point for each of these categories. The first being group closeness, which means, are there bromances? Are there friendships going on? How close is the cast overall? Second is the host. If there is one, do we like them? Are they a positive add-on to the show, or are they like annoying? And last but not least, editing, which some shows, add a little sprinkle of flair and comedy and or like a more cinematic, artistic element to the show. So this is what we have set up. This is our chart of the ultimate love, dating, romance, reality TV shows. So I think that we will probably provide a template maybe on our Instagram so that you at home can print out your template, fill this out. All of the scores are on a scale of 1 to 10, and then the bonus points are just an added 1 or a 0.
Well, an added 1 for each.
An added 1 for each of the bonus
3
points.
Possible bonus points.
Yes. So if you are passionate about this category, this subject like we are, go ahead, print out your chart, fill it out, and then come back to this episode and we can review our scores together. So I wanted to start off by talking about the winner in each category that we selected. We totaled up all of our scores and we'll go category by category and say who was the winners, who were the losers, kind of in our totals. So starting off with premise/idea, we voted 26 points out of 30 to both Married at First Sight and Love is Blind. Do you girls want to touch on this at all?
That is credit where credit is due. I firmly believe that both of those were the winners. In my personal scoring, I gave them both a 10. I think the scientifics that are behind them are what really gave me confidence in their premise and made me interested to watch. This is contrasting the mere 3 I gave Bachelor, Bachelorette, simply because I think putting a bunch of people in a room with one person and being like, one of these 30 individuals is your person, chances are that's not the case. That feels forced. I don't trust it. But these people with these shows, I do trust it. I like the idea.
I mean, I will say, I do think, I agree with what you're saying to a certain extent, that like 30 people versus 1 is not like that many people, but like in comparison to pretty much any other show, the ratio, that is the best ratio in terms of your likelihood of finding someone. Does that make sense? Like that ratio of 1 to 30 is,
well, if you're the 1.
Right, if you're the 1.
But if you're the 30.
I know, but I'm saying like in terms of the, like on Love Island, let's say, it's 5 versus 5.
Right.
So it's a 1-to-1
ratio.
Yeah.
Right. As opposed to a 1 to 30 ratio. That's pretty dramatic.
Exactly. But this is besides the point, because what I really would like to speak on here is about Married at First Sight and Love is Blind,
Yes.
which are similar in the sense that they both sort of force these couples to learn about each other and adapt to each other and become comfortable with each other at lightning speed.
Yeah.
But the key difference is that with Married at First Sight, there's this element of the experts, the scientists trying to put people together versus Love is Blind, where it's like, we're going to let all of the people experiment on their own and figure it out on their own. So I think it's interesting, like putting that trust in these experts versus putting the trust in the people to like feel it out for themselves, which although Are You the One is not included, it was not, a heavy hitter in this category. It falls between Love is Blind and Married at First Sight in the sense that like you're supposed to do what the experts want you to do, but there's also this element of trying to experiment for yourself to find out who.
Yeah,
Mhm.
totally. And I think like, with the Bachelor, Bachelorette, in my mind, like that's the OG dating show that's been around for so many years. Like obviously it's not going to be that creative. And more recently, the people making shows like are trying to get creative. And so they are coming up with more unique ideas. Just to give like a little context on the shows that are a little bit less well known, like Are You the One? I hadn't heard of it until fairly recently. And basically the premise of that show is they bring a bunch of people in and they say that your perfect match, the person, basically your soulmate, the person you're supposed to be with is in this house with you, and you have to all work together to figure out who the perfect matches are, who's compatible, who makes sense together, whatever. But I think the main flaw with that one is that they don't explain the science and like the how they got the matches. So you're kind of like, okay, well, these people are quote unquote perfect matches, but how perfect could they really be?
Whereas Married at First Sight, you get a peek into the investigation process that the like experts do to figure out who will make a perfect match Married at First Sight.
Yeah, and in Married at First Sight, they interview over 100 people. They narrow it down to 4 couples that they believe are perfect matches in a very similar way, and then those couples immediately get married and they have to try to stay married, basically.
And I trust that. Like when I was watching, I was very much like, oh, these people are meant to be. I trust the experts and all the work that went into finding their perfect person. Whereas Are You the One? I don't know that I trusted it.
Right.
Well, they didn't make themselves credible in any way, shape, or form
Exactly.
because we didn't get to see any of
Yes.
that process, nor do we even know who we're putting our trust in.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like I would say, my personal worldview and belief about love is that maybe about 50% of love could be quantified. Like do these people have the same religion? Do they have the same politics? Are they the same cleanliness level? Like these basic kind of things. That's a 50%, but 50% is like an X factor that like no expert can really know like if 2 people are going to actually be attracted, if they're actually going to work together really well, which is why like with Married at First Sight, like yeah, sometimes it's going to work because they have that baseline, that the experts have figured out, and they just so happen to have that X factor. But there's also going to be a lot of people that go on and they don't have that X factor. You know what I mean?
I agree
Totally.
with you.
And then Dating Around is a show that also maybe people wouldn't be as familiar with potentially. And that's basically a show where you have one person who's the main one and they go on 5 different blind dates and you watch them progress throughout the night. So it's not like a continued season. It's definitely the most kind of least formulaic, we'll say, or like traditional to the formula of these types of shows. So I think other than that, people probably know the rest of the shows.
The only other one that would maybe require some explanation would be Too Hot to Handle if you weren't familiar with that on Netflix. It was basically just like a bunch of quote unquote hot single influencer types thrown together, and they're trying to work together to not kiss, touch, hug, anything in order to win the cash prize.
Right.
And these are people who kissing, touching, etc. That is their thing. They are frequents on dating apps, and so you're trying to build an emotional connection rather than a physical one, which is what these people in their past have tended towards.
And I do think we should give honorable mention to the premise idea of Too Hot to Handle.
I agree.
Because they also didn't tell these people that that's what it was. Like they thought they were just coming on and they were going to get to do whatever they wanted, have sex with whoever they want, you know, whatever.
Just go on a normal dating show.
Exactly. And then the fact that they got that bomb dropped, I think that is a pretty fun and creative aspect.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that the element of money is always interesting on these shows. And I kind of feel like the element of a cash prize is oftentimes correlated with trashiness.
Yeah.
You know, like I do feel like with Are You the One? Like they're really, at the end of the day, they're in it for the cash prize. Love Island, like, yeah, they all want to find love, but like there is like a cash prize, I'm pretty sure. And, you know, with Love is Blind, there's no cash prize, right? Like you just get to get married.
No.
Like, you know, Married at First Sight, you just get to get married and then maybe have to get divorced, you know, like there isn't a cash prize. So it does kind of, I think there might be a little correlation there. But I think we've covered the
Well, and sorry,
Oh,
I
do you
think
have another-
there's sort of a correlation of like this inverse relationship between romance factor and money factor.
Right.
Because when there's the money at stake, then people are incentivized to like, you know, win in whatever sense. And with the exception of Love Island, that isn't necessarily tied to the romance of the show.
Right.
Whereas Love Island, like to win the cash prize, you have to be in
the
a
most
loving
romantic,
romance.
best loving couple.
Exactly.
So going off of that into the romance category, this one had one winner, which got 25 points, which was the Bachelor, Bachelorette. And I think that this totally tracks with what we were saying with the 1 to 30 ratio. Like if I'm the Bachelorette and I get to choose from 30 men, like I do think that there's going to be a lot of romance going on because you get to deepen relationships. And, you know, as that one, like you get your pick of the litter, you know, really well. Whereas on these other shows where it's more matched up, you might not necessarily find your partner.
I also think that on Bachelor, Bachelorette, like you are dating 30 individuals or in the beginning and then down to whatever number. And for the most part, dating is inherently pretty romantic. Whereas some of the other shows, I don't think this emphasis on dating is present. So
Yeah.
I think that is why, in my mind, I also scored this very highly on my personal chart. Bachelor, Bachelorette is a very romantic show. And when you throw in the element of like the physicality is limited, like I think that cutting it off, maybe you can draw back from romance, but limiting it, I do think you kind of strike a perfect balance of romantic and somewhat intimate, but like throw fantasy suites in there.
Right.
That all produces a perfect romantic concoction.
I think that's a really good observation because like on Too Hot to Handle, when you completely remove the physical touch element, like it almost in a certain way like makes it less romantic, but also and just like more like lusty, you know, and like less about like love, you know?
Right. And I do think with Bachelor, Bachelorette, they have like perfectly calibrated or like attempted to perfectly calibrate this microcosm of love and what that would look like in the real world, just condensed into, you know, a 2-month process or however long the actual timeline is. Because they're essentially like, okay, you're gonna date, you're gonna like hang out, then you're going to have one-on-one time, then you're going to continue to deepen this relationship, then you're going to get the opportunity to explore, you know, sex if you want to.
Right.
And it's very much in line with like American ideals, like just the home, you know, like it definitely tries to appeal to that like traditional kind of love and romance.
Right. And honorable mentions in the romance category go to Bachelor in Paradise, of course, and Love is Blind. They both tied for second place. And I will say that the worst score in this category was Are You the One? If you are looking for a romantic dating show, I do not recommend Are You the One.
Not at all.
All right, and next up we'll do drama. So this category obviously is a little bit more nuanced because we were rating them based on if we enjoy the drama. It's not like the highest score is necessarily the most dramatic, but it's the most juicy, enjoyable drama. And the winner of that was Love Island, which I think is totally accurate. There's a great amount of drama, but there's always purpose behind the drama, unlike on Bachelor, Bachelorette, where it feels like the drama is totally scripted, manufactured, fake, and just weird.
And you're just like, can we get on with this so that I can see love and romance?
Yeah.
Like, Just to reference a concrete example from this most recent season, the Bennett and Noah drama was so drawn out where I'm like, why am I wasting 20 minutes of my life watching this when I don't care?
Yeah.
Like, just get on to Tayshia finding love, please, and thank you.
Yeah, I also never like The Bachelor much. Like, that is not special to this season. Every year and it is also the same format of like, okay, two people don't get along, they go on a 2-on-1, you get rid of the one you always wanted to get rid of them. And it, like, I'm not saying the drama isn't there. Again, drama is there, but it is not good. So it is getting a low score. I could do
Totally.
without it. It's not enriching my watching experience.
And Love Island, at least in our experience, the drama, it feels very organic. Like, of course the producers do set up situations that like could create the possibility for drama, but it's not like they're whispering in their ear telling them what to do.
Right.
And like, I also think Love Island Australia is specifically what we're watching, and there's one individual I can think of who I feel has been driven. I don't want to say to insanity because that's a little
pretty much
extreme, but she's been driven to like
yeah,
just completely go off the rails, and so she's just taking
and just do behavior that is clearly very uncharacteristic for her.
It's clearly uncharacteristic, but like
but
you can tell
you've seen the progression to that point, and you know like why she does what she does.
Totally.
Yeah, I completely agree. And my theory as far as drama is like it's all about like the ratio of guys to girls. Like when there's the same ratio of guys to girls, and like everyone, there's a lot more drama is going to happen so much more easily because there's going to become triangles, there's going to become shapes, and different interactions and friendships, and like all of that stuff is going on. Whereas on Bachelor, Bachelorette, they have to manufacture the drama because it's just this one giant love triangle. So like it's never the drama just doesn't really ever go anywhere because there's no like nuance or complication.
And also like people are training themselves to ignore the fact that who they're vying for is dating other people. Like they're purposely getting themselves to ignore that fact. So all of the drama just comes from like disliking each other. Like it's not even about Tayshia. It's like just simply that they don't get along.
And like for the most part on Bachelor, Bachelorette, the people who are involved in drama, they're not the winner. Like, they're not going to go far. They're not the people you like. They're not the people you root for.
You don't care about them.
So you're just like, all right, I'm watching this drama, but like, then the people I actually like aren't involved in it. Whereas on a lot of the other shows, you see people you like Bachelor in Paradise. You see characters you've gotten to know and like fighting with each other, and you actually can like have a side or take a perspective or like care,
I also think, and this gets into bonus points a little bit in editing, but not editing in the way that I think we were scoring on. But all the time I hear people when they're talking about Bachelor, Bachelorette being like, oh, so-and-so got a bad edit, which is something I feel like is important to pay attention to for a second, is sometimes there are people on like Bachelor, Bachelorette that aren't necessarily involved in drama, but the way that they're edited and the stuff that the producers choose to show or choose to admit is just like weird.
Yeah.
And that's another reason why I was like, okay, Bachelor, Bachelorette, because they present people in a really strange way sometimes.
Yeah.
Like you can tell that they are playing with the scales of like showing some people in a really positive light, showing other people in like a neutral. It's distorting.
Totally. And I think like, especially what you're saying, Lily, with the fact that we see these same like archetypes of characters season after season, it's like you're creating that. And the fact that then we see these people on Bachelor in Paradise and you get to see a totally different like fun side to them, and you're like, I was really just being shown what they wanted,
one-dimensional
what they
version.
wanted to show me.
Whereas you're showing so little where it's like, this person has been on, I barely even know their name, why is Tayshia keeping him around? I'm not talking about anyone specific, but just and then I have to remind myself like, this is not actually what's happening, Lily. They're only showing you what they want to show you,
right?
But I want to see like a more representative situation.
Totally. And I think you bring up a funny point, Lily, that like someone who we aren't seeing that much of, like they are having their full experience. Like from the perspective of that person, like they're just as much in it as anyone else. But like as a viewer, we're like, you really thought you were in this thing? Like, come on.
Yeah. 100%. And like, this was something I was saying in a direct comparison of Love Island versus Bachelor, Bachelorette is in Bachelor, Bachelorette, how many times have you seen a preview of something for the next week's episode and that was misleading? That happens all the time, that they make it look like drama is happening between two people. That's just not.
Or they take sound bites and they cut stuff together. Like they
make the next episode seem more exciting than it's actually going to be. So then you're disappointed. You're left like,
you know what?
That wasn't as good as I wanted it to be.
I don't want to jump ahead too much, but this ties into my enjoyment. So I'll hold off on this comment for enjoyment, but we'll make sure to come back to that. But another thing is also like, I feel like the preview, not only does it distort things, but it also shows me like all of the juiciest moments.
Right.
And then I'm not left wanting more.
Right. Whereas a lot of other shows, like I feel like, for example, Love Island, the way that they do their previews and like next episode on, they show you the perfect amount of like just the highlights. And then you want to see how all of the details come together.
And also on Bachelor, Bachelorette, I feel like we see the same stuff in the previews time and time and time again. It's like, once I see it for real, with the exception of Bring Her Home, you know, once you see it for real, you're like, I'm so desensitized to this now. Like, this doesn't even have anything. Okay, but Bring Her Home,
because it was iconic, of course. It was iconic, but it would have been better if that was the first time we had seen her do that.
No. Bring Her Home had its power because of its repetition. Okay. But I also think part of the reason that Bring Her Home had power was because for so long we didn't know who she wanted him to bring home.
Yeah. Who was being brought home.
Who was being brought home.
Exactly. So overall with drama, Love Island definitely won. Then Bachelor in Paradise, I think that's pretty clear. And then Too Hot to Handle and Love is Blind tied for third place. Worst place was Dating Around. Once again, like if you're looking for drama, that's probably not your show. Next up, we have Community/Universe. So we had a tie, Bachelor, Bachelorette, and Bachelor in Paradise, essentially the same universe. They got
essentially Bachelor Nation.
Yeah, Bachelor Nation. They almost got a perfect score with 29. Like, just iconic. You can't find a better community or a more passionate group of people than Bachelor Nation.
I think it's numbers wise the strongest throughout the nation and the world. And, the fact that they, even amongst themselves, like you definitely get to see on Bachelor in Paradise how then the characters, so to speak, from Bachelor, Bachelorette then interact amongst, it becomes like their own dating pool. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because you'll see so many times, whether it's through Bachelor in Paradise or whether it's through just natural organic means. Just like mutual friends, you wind up like dating within the pool of the Bachelor universe, which I think is really interesting as well.
You 100%. Also have strong name recognition for so long after you're on any of these shows, even if you go out early. I think you remain relevant.
And you're likely to get a strong Instagram following. We even have Nick Viall, who has Viall Files. So, there's definitely strong staying power. Tyler Cameron has really made something of himself from this show.
Crossover into legitimate fame, like a little bit, like getting there. And so I think that's an obvious answer. The only show that even came close with 25 points was Love Island, which I do think benefits so strongly from the fact that there's literally 5 episodes a week.
And it releases live.
So what is happening when you watch Love Island is happening like that happened yesterday.
Like, I have to remind myself it's like Big Brother.
It's like,
Yeah.
And I think that creates a really strong sense of community and like, there's no chance for spoilers. Like there's literally no chance for spoilers, which I think is really detrimental with Bachelor. Like the spoilers and the spoiling of that show is just rampant, and I think that with Tayshia's season, like luckily I haven't really gotten too much spoiled, but like in seasons past, like it just gets leaked out, or it's just so obvious from the very beginning that people just know.
Right. Another super strong community aspect to Love Island, with it being live and everything, is the fact that people are on Instagram, on Twitter, looking like, tweeting, whatever. And then also that not always, but sometimes there's the element of how Australia or UK or the US is going to vote with the people, or like with the, people on the show.
Yeah, like the fact that the audience has power to control some dates, control who goes home sometimes. Like that also I think brings a really powerful community.
Totally. But I don't just, you know, to Love Island's defense, I don't think people are given too much power.
Right. No, it's not like American Idol where like, you know, they're
it's do or die
voting
on the people.
Yeah, it's just every once in a while. And what else? Every other show was a little bit average other than Dating Around, which once again did not get a very good score.
I just want to quickly say
Yes.
Love is Blind. I know this is an untraditional one to score highly in this category, but I gave it a very high score because this was one of the few shows that I think captured a very diverse audience.
Mm-hmm.
For example, my father, who has been quoted to say that watching The Bachelor, Bachelorette, etc., shows like that is making me lose brain cells, has detrimental impacts on my health. This is the only dating show he has ever watched and enjoyed. And I think that it caught some people who aren't traditional love and romance reality TV watchers. And I think it is something, I mean, it is a show that has really retained people's interest in terms of I look up how these couples are doing way more frequently than I look up any other show. Like I am invested in these relationships.
And I can agree completely. Like when that show was coming out, I remember there being like for when the reunion especially was coming out, like so many people were like, all I need to know is like how they're doing now.
Totally. And I appreciated with that show as well that like they waited so long to release it that we got a really proper, thorough update. You know, like the reunion happened like literally a year and a half or like even 2 years like after this all happened, which I think was really powerful because we got a hint at the staying power of these couples.
Totally.
All right. Next up is enjoyment, just episode by episode. How enjoyable, how much do we look forward to each episode? The winner of this category was Bachelor in Paradise, with second place coming in from Love Island, third place going to Dating Around, fourth place going to Love is Blind, and, you know, kind of a hodgepodge spread out category. And everyone has their personal preference as far as enjoyment, but I do think Bachelor in Paradise is probably pretty accurate.
I think that length is a really important thing to bring up in this category, at least for me. As someone who loved Married at First Sight, the show was so long and the episode length and all of that created serious problem for me. Whereas Dating Around, that is like 20-minute episodes.
And there's only like 5 a season. Like we could do with more.
That does great things for me. But like Bachelor, Bachelorette, Married at First Sight, I am not left wanting more. And I want to be left wanting more. So if anyone here is a producer of any of these shows, I think it would be in your best interest to shorten the reality, love, and romance shows just a little bit.
What I wanted to say as far as Bachelor in Paradise, as Liesel had mentioned, obviously everyone has their own personal preferences, but I was once quoted to say while watching Bachelor in Paradise for the first time, season 6 to be exact, while it was airing, I was quoted to say, not a day goes by that I don't think about Bachelor in Paradise and those people and the situations. And the fact that you get a back-to-back Monday, Tuesday airing is like pretty spectacular if you ask me.
Yeah.
As far as I want to go back to what I was saying about enjoyment and the previews from before. Bachelor, Bachelorette got a super low enjoyment score from me. And a big reason for that, I would say, is the fact that the preview, I see it and I'm like, I'm already annoyed at you guys. I'm already annoyed at what's about to happen. And then like, I see it in 2-hour form and I'm still annoyed. I'm still like frustrated or left feeling like literally this episode could have been like 30 minutes. And all I really care about is like seeing the relationships progress. Like give me more of the substance, you know, like get rid, like they spend so much time on that show doing nothing. You know what, do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Totally. Okay, so I think that pretty much covers enjoyment. All of these shows, obviously we watched them, so we enjoyed them somewhat. And next up we have casting, which also kind of includes the trashiness, are they normal people? Are they influencers? Are they nice? Are they friendly? Are they funny? Like all of this kind of combined, with 10, out of 10 being, we really love the cast and like find them really enjoyable and amazing to watch. And maybe a 1 being like they're trashy and I wouldn't want to interact with them ever.
And I think also like in addition to trashy, like are they good looking? Are they like a catch? Or like, are they just kind of common people?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I would say like with Married at First Sight, they're not necessarily even like trying to portray these people as like such a catch. You're not even
No.
like they're good looking. They don't seem like they're particularly successful in life. Like whereas Bachelor, Bachelorette, I really feel like they try and get people that like are quote unquote objectively good looking, successful, normal, happy, sane people.
And just
Right.
like people you want to watch on a show for an extended period of time. Like
That you
are
want to
these-
root for.
Yeah, are these people that I can become invested in? Married at First Sight, absolutely. I don't care what happens to you.
And like I feel like the biggest L that you can take as a reality dating show is to be like, here are all these hot people, like they're such hot singles, and then they're not. And they
I get
act
really
like they
frustrated
are.
by that.
They act like they're literally the hottest people ever, and they're just not that hot.
Like I would say both Too Hot to Handle and Love Island are guilty of this.
100%.
Like they're like literally they talk about these people like they are
they're
the
literally
hottest people
Leonardo
ever.
DiCaprio, like
Victoria's Secret models, like, and they're not.
and they're just straight up not, which is like taking an L in the casting realm, especially if they don't have personalities to like back it up.
Right, but I do think in the case of those two shows,
Yeah.
they do a good job of casting
Finding
good
personalities. Finding personalities, which is important. Okay, so the winner of casting was Bachelor in Paradise, which I think kind of comes from the fact that you have the Bachelor universe and they pick a lot of people and then they choose from that who was successful on TV. Like who did people like on TV already, and then they get to choose those people.
And they curate like, okay, who's a like fun, spunky person from this season? Who's a fun, spunky person from that season? Who's a drama creator? Who's a like the fact that it can be so curated from such a like wealth of knowledge about these people. I think that really just gets at the good of casting.
They do have an unfair leg up,
Yes.
I will say, but I can get on board with them having the best casting, but it is like a little bit, they did some cheating. You know,
they did some cheating, and I misspoke because there's actually a tie for first, which is with Dating Around, which
right.
we like it's an interesting blend of, I think, interesting personalities, interesting lifestyles, but normal people, like not influencers. Like these are real people, but like some of them are attractive, and like definitely some of them are attracted to each other, which is, you know, what we're asking for here, and just diverse and just like a cool, interesting group of people.
I also think that Dating Around is the easiest show to connect with the people on the screen. As I said, there's other shows where I'm like, okay, I want to become invested in you, but like 99% of them, it's not like people where I'm like, oh, I see myself in you. But Dating Around, it's like, I could be on this show. Like this,
or I could like know these people.
Exactly. So I like that I can connect with them because I can get invested in a different way. And I also just want to place emphasis on the diversity, which is part of the reason why I got such a high score on my sheet, because that is really important, that I'm like, okay, I get to see all types of people from all walks,
all ages, all, you know, races, different backgrounds, different countries, different
sexual orientation.
Yeah,
like get to see everything. But on top of that, like I would say the casting is like pretty exclusively like cool metropolitan, like city, you know, city people, young. And, you know, I know we did just say that they do different ages, but like the fact that it is primarily like cool, hip, young people is pretty appealing. And, you know, I do like to see the older people as well, because
they're very cute.
It is, well, it's cute. And then there's also like the sexy old people where you're like, oh, get it. Like, I'm so happy for you.
Yeah, there are some like sexy divorced moms who are like, you know, trying to.
That's not really what I was thinking of.
What were you thinking of? Sexy old people?
Yeah, like on remember on Dating Around Brazil, how there was that older lady who was very sensual.
Sexy divorced mom. That's what I meant.
No, but I just felt like that you were misrepresenting her, like that, to the point where I didn't feel like we were talking about the same person.
That's exactly who I was talking about.
That sensual older woman who was with.
It's the difference between sensual and sexy.
Right. Okay.
I'm glad we covered that.
But regardless, I just, if you haven't seen Dating Around, I feel like it won't totally make sense, like how cool and hip and fun these people are.
Yeah.
Like they're a little alternative, I feel like.
Absolutely.
Like hip. I would almost go as far as to say they're hipster.
No, they're hipsters.
They're not all hipsters.
They're not all hipsters.
Are basic AF.
Majority. I would say majority hipster, majority millennial hipsters.
Yeah,
Alternative
it's fun.
to me is the best word to describe them.
Yeah. Millennial.
Alternative.
Oh.
Millennial too. Yeah, throw them all in there.
I mean, even the ones who aren't millennials, like I feel like are kind of millennials still.
Yeah, it just has a very millennial vibe.
Yeah. So if you're a millennial, we recommend.
Okay, I'm literally dying to know who won the overall support.
Okay, wait. Yeah, we can keep going, of course, but we want to build the suspense for the people.
My suspense is built. Suspense. It's building.
Okay, what I will say is that Are You the One has the worst cast, and I will stand by that 100%.
I agree.
They're not hot, they're not fun, they're not funny, they don't
they're
make me laugh, they're dramatic.
They're so unintelligent, it's almost concerning.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, totally. Okay, and then last but not least, we have the bonus points. The show that got the most bonus points was Bachelor in Paradise. Once again, the bonus points were group closeness, host, and editing. Obviously, Chris Harrison is the best host to ever walk this earth. Like, that's pretty obvious. I would say Bachelor in Paradise and Love Island both have funny and fun editing going on.
Yeah, and I feel like for some people, they might be a little bit confused by the fun and funny editing, but like there is a comedic aspect. You know how Bachelorette like takes itself so seriously?
Yeah.
Bachelor in Paradise, like the editors have so much fun, in my opinion. Like even the theme song is literally like a parody of itself.
Yeah, it's very like kitschy and fun. And like, you know, on Bachelor in Paradise, like there will be a couple that like the audience has been rooting for to like get together for so long, and the editors will cut to like stock videos of like fireworks going on,
right?
You know, and like birds like flowing and like the American flag, like they have fun with it. Whereas like on regular Bachelorette, like there's fireworks because like they're watching a firework show and they're kissing again,
and they're going to a country pop
star.
Yeah,
they sound so good and they're slow dancing.
Exactly.
And even like I think Chris Harrison is funnier on
and
Bachelor
the fact
Paradise.
That they have Wells the bartender,
totally.
Like so fun.
Totally.
And I will say Dating Around also did get some bonus points for their editing and their artistry, the cinematography. Everything's very aesthetic.
It looks
there.
like a movie. Like, you know how reality TV is shot like reality TV? That one is shot like as if it's a movie.
I watch it and I'm like, wow, the like value, like the what's the word? Like the money
production value?
Yeah, the production value feels very high on Dating Around.
Definitely. Love is Blind got a couple bonus points. Too Hot to Handle got a couple bonus points. Worst on the bonus points was Married at First Sight.
No group closeness, no host.
No, they are kind of group closeness.
No, we didn't get Gigi and I both gave them straight zeros.
I watched that show.
Okay, fine. There was a little bit of group closeness.
They went on a trip together.
Yeah, but they didn't interact with each other on the trip.
Yes, they did.
Barely.
They played volleyball together.
One time. They were focused on getting to know their partner.
You're right. Okay. But they did all live in like Atlanta or whatever, so they could hang out.
Yeah, they did.
Okay,
all
but
right.
Listen, then host, if we're even going to talk about the experts as hosts, I hate it.
I don't like that.
And then the editing was bad too.
Yeah.
The
Oh my
production value on that show was
that show was filmed on a potato.
Liesel and I literally said the other day that the budget of Married at Sight must have been literally like $2.
They literally send them to like, I'm sorry, but like a sandals resort and like anyway. I remember when they were in their like honeymoon suites, like I was like, I know what that room smells like. Like it smells like chlorine and like baby powder. Like horrible. Anyway. All right. So Lily, it's the moment that you've been waiting for.
Yes.
We're gonna go from last place to first place, and I will say that there is a tie somewhere in here.
That feels right, though.
Do you girls want to guess what you think last place?
No, I just want you to give it to me.
Last place I think is gonna be Are You the One?
You're correct.
Yes.
Are You the One is in last place for us. That is not our favorite reality dating show.
Well, but that does not go to say that like we didn't enjoy. I mean, Liesel and I did wind up scrubbing through.
I gave it a very high enjoyment score. I loved that show. I looked forward to watching it.
But
that feels fine. I'm not mad at
in
that.
its defense, like Liesel and I, we were intrigued. We did want to watch it, and we wanted to see what was going on at the end. We didn't bow out completely.
And I have two things to say. First thing is, we watched a season from 2014. And like I don't really think that's giving it a fair shot. And I know that their most recent season was an all pansexual season, which is
not just the most recent season, because I've seen one other season of it that was like 2 years ago or a year ago, and that was also pansexual.
Oh, okay. So recently they've expanded it to pansexual, which I think does give it some points in diversity. and does make it a little bit more interesting.
Totally.
And we didn't really see that, so we couldn't
And
give
on
it a fair
top of
shot.
that, like the first season reeked of 2014. Like everyone looked like they were on 2014 MTV because they were. You know what I mean?
And like MTV in general is already like not the classiest.
No.
But
on top of that, I think Liesel did make a good point that she believes Are You the One could be drastically improved if we were to, like, as the audience were to be given all of the perfect matches from the get-go, and then you get to watch all of this stuff unfold, which I think would be far more interesting. Or, you know, it would be different, but like I think that that'd be more fun because like the idea of getting to know that a match are crossing paths with each other but not seeing it for themselves, you're like
yeah.
I also just think it would make it different. Like that's such a unique perspective that like no other dating show has, which at the end of the day is all you can ask for.
Which, let's put a pin in this, because when we get to our you know, perfect reality show, I already have some ideas of how we might start it off and stuff like that. And with Are You the One, like if any of the producers are listening right now, like please show us some of the matchmaking behind the scenes. Like, we need some like, even if it's so fake and like you just bring like the millionaire matchmaker woman in and like have her like make the matches, or just like some person who like comes in and is like the fake matchmaker, like it would legitimize it and make it like a little bit more fun to watch, in my opinion.
Totally.
But you know, at the end of the day, like they still got 83 points, which is nothing to scoff at. Like that's still a lot of enjoyment going on there.
Totally.
Okay, in 6th place, do you girls want to guess?
Married at First Sight.
Correct. Gigi, you're killing it. Married at First Sight got a total of 98 points. Like, once again, I do think budgetary, like if they could up their budget, it could be like a way better show.
And I think the other thing is also like, unfortunately, you're just not going to get that many like cool, coveted people
who are willing to get married.
Like on the spot. So like, you know, of course we do want to acknowledge that part of the like, just part of it is like you want to watch it for the absurdity. And like part of that comes down to it just being absurd characters that are kind of like loose cannons or weird in some way. Yeah. But I also think like it would be really interesting if they could, again, maybe even further legitimize their matchmaking process. And maybe that would also like garner more trust from actually like normal coveted people.
Yeah. And like I you know, just like Are You the One like has such MTV energy to me. Married at First Sight is like TLC energy. So if you like almost worse, but like if you enjoy watching like television on the quality level of TLC, like this show could be for you, because that is where the quality is. But I truly think like if Netflix like were to buy the concept of Married at First Sight and zhuzh it up, like it could be really good.
And part of that judging is cutting the length, because I have never watched a show where I'm like, come on. And I loved it.
And did they release weekly? Like,
I don't know.
That would be excruciating.
It would be excruciating, like horrible.
Yeah, they do release weekly. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what I think there should also be, in my opinion, would be 6 marriages instead of 4.
Also, just like
I think it's
cut the length in half.
Maybe 5 or 6, because I just think 4, like it's not enough. Like there's not enough people. There's no sense of community, or like it's just a little sparse.
I also think they're doing the opposite of The Bachelor, where like The Bachelor is giving people weird edits where like some people we see a lot of them and some people we're not seeing any of them. Whereas like Married at First Sight, probably because the production value is $0, everyone you're just like seeing everything, and I can respect that. Okay, I really feel a part of their home, but like I don't need to see you preparing breakfast. I don't need to see you walking around your home, walking your dog. Like, let's pick the most interesting things, and the rest you can do like behind the scenes. Like, what do they do on Big Brother where like you can tune in and watch? Let's do
live streams. Yeah.
Live streams. Yeah. Great. But for the show, much shorter, please.
And I think like, I don't know if we said this on the pod or if we were talking about this before, but just, you know, marriage is not the like romantic, fun, anticipating, like sexy time. Marriage is like the hard, you know, time. Whereas like on The Bachelor, Bachelorette, we're watching like the dating portion and like the lead up to an engagement. There's a lot of anticipation and excitement and like fun. Whereas like on Married at First Sight, like you're kind of over that and you're onto like the hard.
Well, but even in addition, like when you're forced to marry someone at first sight, like you basically just have to get comfortable with them, period, on like a companionship level before anything else. And so like I think each couple kind of has to navigate like not forcing the romance, but also like trying to get some element of romance. But like I just don't think that the show and the format is setting them up for success with romance.
Definitely not. Like, and if the budget was higher and like everything was more glamorous, like it could have more romance if there was more glamour.
Right.
I do think glamour and romance are like they're sisters, you know, like they work really well together.
Yeah.
Okay, so next up, who do you girls think?
I think Dating Around.
Gigi, you're killing it. Dating Around. It's really a great show, and it's a show you can throw on any episode with like a group of people and like have fun watching it.
Totally. And I think that there are some episodes that are like, whoa, this was like so weird and I hated like everyone, but it's still entertaining. And then there are others where you're like, oh, this is like, they had so many like earnestly
heartwarming like little conversations,
earnestly good like dates, and I'm so happy for them that like they get to, you know, continue to like date, and there's no pressure. Like all it is a second date. Like it's like really not that hard. The
amount of pressure in Married at First Sight versus Dating Around
is astronomical.
Yeah.
I also think that because the production value is so high and because it's not a traditional trashy TV show in that way, it can attract audience members from all over. Like similarly to how I said I think Love is Blind casts a very wide net, I think that even people who like don't necessarily like romantic reality TV show could go for Dating Around because I think it has a plethora of components to it.
And like in Dating Around, like the interactions, like you really are like a fly on the wall. Like you just get to watch these people go on a blind date. Like, you know, it's very genuine and authentic and people are sharing, and it's not fake or like cultivated, in my opinion.
One thing I do need to know about Dating Around from the producers, how are they going about filming it? It cannot all be in one night, because the like one person who's dating 5 people goes to drinks, dinner, and then probably drinks again. Like that's kind of the format. They'd be so drunk, and also like
they wouldn't be able to be charismatic.
Not enough hours in the night to do that 5 times, but they're wearing the same clothes. Like, and I know that they could just put the same clothes back on, but like
they look
like it is happening in the same night.
It looks like it's happening in the same night. And also like, okay, are we doing 2 per night? Like, I want to know logistically how they go about filming that show.
I agree with you. I've thought about that many times.
And you know what else I think we can add as an element is just go down the line and say, I would participate, I wouldn't participate.
Let's do that.
I'd be a contestant, or I wouldn't be a contestant.
Let's do that at the end. Okay. So Dating Around got a very formidable 100 points. Like that's solid, you know. And now we're getting into, in my opinion, more premium territory. Okay. Next up, what do you girls think?
Too Hot to Handle.
I was gonna say the same.
You're exactly right. So Too Hot to Handle got 123 points. Very, very solid. Do you girls have any commentary on that?
I just think it's a really unique premise, which
it's fun.
Yeah, so fun. And as I said, like I want to be watching something that's like novel and different. And I think Too Hot to Handle, after many very repetitive romantic TV shows, finally gave me some of that.
And it has pretty good staying power. You know, like there are a few people from that show that we're still, you know, somewhat keeping an eye on. One thing I am curious to know about is if they do a season 2, which I really hope they do, how are they going to keep it a secret?
Interesting
you know?
point.
Totally. But I mean, I guess it's not that difficult to be like, okay, we're Netflix and we do 1,000 of these shows. Hey, we're doing a new show. Come to this remote location and let's go.
Totally. One criticism that I did have of that show very strongly was like they were so bad at explaining how the money worked.
Yeah.
And it was very confusing.
I can agree with that.
Who was going to get money, and
was it
how
split between all of them? Was it like whoever does the least? And
it was weird.
I do kind of think that like they could potentially tweak the money element of it, because it doesn't really feel fair that they're all splitting when like Francesca and Harry are like the reason that they got the amount of money that they got. And like, you know how it's kind of like if you find love, like, you know, you should get money, or like there should be an incentive to find love. But like that show, all it does is like discourages physical touch.
Right.
So, and there's no reward for good behavior. Does
Right.
that make sense?
No, yeah.
They also lacked consistency in the money department. Like they gave the money back and then they took it away. Like
yeah, like it was
don't
just
And
do
also,
me
confusing.
like,
that.
why are you bringing up this money aspect when they're gonna walk away with like $2,000? You know what I mean?
right,
Like,
they ended up
most
with like
of these
nothing.
people then wind up running a cost benefit, and they're like, okay, I can either get $2,000 or I can do whatever I want, and then
Yeah.
it just loses some of its, power.
All right, and in third place with 129 points.
Love Island. No, yeah, Love Island.
I was gonna say Bachelor.
Lilly, you got it. It is Bachelor, Bachelorette in third place with 129 points. Totally solid with high marks in romance and community. And pretty solid overall, lacking in premise, drama, and enjoyment.
Yeah.
But very solid, and of course has such a strong place in our hearts.
Right. It has to, like, the respect has to be put on the Bachelor, Bachelorette name.
Of course.
100%. And now tied for second place. What do you girls think?
Love Island.
Love Island and I don't even know what the one that we haven't. I don't know.
Love is Blind.
Love Island and Love is Blind, the two that include love in their name, both tied for second with 137 points, which is pretty remarkable, honestly, that we even got a tie.
That is pretty remarkable, and I do still think that we should give each show a brief assessment the way that we have with each of our shows thus far. So let's start with Love is Blind.
I mean, I think it's a really good premise. I love the idea of like, we're going to figure out if love is truly blind. Like, how are people going to interact when they can't see each other? Like, how is that going to create dynamics? It's just so juicy. Like, it's so that's
just
our,
to be
and
clear, it's juicy.
It's juicy, but we enjoy saying juicy.
It's very juicy.
And it's very juicy. Like, just I love the idea. It's a social experiment. Like, I love it.
Yeah, and I'm glad you bring up those keywords of social experiment because they do throw that around so much
Like,
in the
this is
show.
an experiment.
And that's like that. Those words alone give the people on the show so much faith. Like, you can tell that they're social experiment. Like, I have faith in this social experiment. I'm a scientist. I know.
That also attracts more likable individuals because they're like, okay, I'm participating in a social experiment. I'm not just like being romantic on TV, which has some trashy connotation. And I forget the other thing I was going to say about it, but I absolutely love that show.
Also really appreciate that they're figuring out for themselves.
Yeah.
Like they
have agency.
They have agency.
100%. And I think that they got a great group of people. When I was doing my scoring, like, I just couldn't help but think about Jessica, the annoying blonde woman, like, over and over and over again, and how much I despised her. But I do think, like, if we take her out of the equation, like, overall, we had like fun, spunky personalities,
but also
attractive,
like, people who are ready to get married. You know what I mean? Like, there was definitely people who were like, I'm ready to get married.
And I think that like people who are either ready to get married or ready to be in a serious relationship, like, those are the people we need on these shows.
Also, not that we assessed any of the shows in this category, but that produced a lot of couples that are still together, which longevity. I don't really care because when I'm watching the show, I'm doing it for the show, but like, the longevity of that show is pretty remarkable.
Of the relationships from it.
Yeah, like, so many of them are still together.
Right.
And that has some value to
success
me.
rate.
Like, okay, look.
Maybe we should have assessed success rate. But I mean, like you're saying, Lily, that doesn't really have to do with like the show itself necessarily.
I think also, like, unfortunately, success rate is really difficult to quantify because all of these shows have different amounts of seasons or amounts of couples that they're even producing. So like, you can't really compare the success rate of the entire Bachelor universe to Love is Blind, which only has one season,
And on top of that, for example, like Too Hot to Handle, a lot of them left that experience, not necessarily in a relationship, but like pleased that they learned how to develop a romantic connection that wasn't physical, and like that was like, I think, especially considering some of the goals of the show, the mission statement, as Lily previously said, it varies.
Yeah. So we couldn't really necessarily compare apples to apples, but I would definitely say like, Love is Blind and Bachelor universe like reigns supreme as far as like really creating some long lasting couples. Like, there are Bachelor babies out there. There's, you know, Bachelor really long lasting marriages.
And I bet there are Love is
relationships.
Blind babies on the way.
I bet some are gonna come. And
can I just say one thing that's
Yeah,
a little
please.
bit off topic, which is like, can you imagine being a Bachelor baby and like one day asking your parents, how did you meet? And your parents saying like, here, watch our meeting. Like I
know that is
cannot
actually pretty
imagine
wild.
this.
Like, but that's the thing. The kid is going to grow up always knowing that. They're not going to have a time when they don't know that their parents met on TV.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would be so crazy if you gave me a season of footage of my parents meeting.
Yeah, the thing is also like I think it's a different age where you find out how they met and you don't even have a concept of what that means.
Right.
Okay.
And a different age that you then get to actually watch.
Yeah,
and like,
exactly.
I mean, like let's say I'm 5 years old when I'm told like, oh yeah, like we met.
That's how we met on TV.
Like, that's
I'm
how we
like,
met.
okay, that's
yeah,
normal
exactly.
then.
I'm like, okay, sure, like exactly. And then when I'm 15, let's say, and they're like, okay, you can actually watch, I would be like, this is unbelievable.
Like
Insane.
What I will say also, like just going back a little bit to Too Hot to Handle, the fact that Harry and Francesca were together for any period of time, like the fact that they produced even one couple that lasted over a year is remarkable in my opinion.
It is pretty remarkable.
And Love Island, that, you know, is kind of freshest in Gigi in my mind because we are currently watching Love Island Australia. Season 1 is on Hulu, and like I'm telling you, I have laughed so hard. I have felt so many emotions.
I've come close to tears even.
Yeah.
I actually, maybe that's a lie, but you know, you get the gist that like I'm feeling feelings in my body for these people and their situations.
And I will say, like, they really do get like a major slash of their reputation for the lack of diversity. Like huge. Literally one girl comes on and she's like, I know I'm like the curvy, like bigger girl. And like, she's not like even remotely like.
I think that's a little bit of a misrepresentation because she didn't say she was the curvy, bigger girl. She said that she
identifies as,
she was like, I'm gonna be successful because I'm curvy.
Oh yeah, okay, maybe she didn't mean it like that.
No, she didn't mean it like that. But diversity in terms of racial diversity, there is literally zero.
Well, but like race, age, size, you know, sexual preference, although arguably there might have been some sexual preferences that we didn't know about, but like it's really lacking in diversity, and I really hope that they can improve on that. And maybe this is an Australian kind of phenomenon.
Yeah, it's literally all white, cisgendered, straight, able-bodied,
skinny,
fit, conventionally good looking.
There's
people.
one short man.
And by short, he's like 5'11".
That's not short.
Yeah, so there you go. That's yeah.
But here's the thing is like, you know, we do want, as we previously mentioned, when they claim to have the hottest of hotties, like we want them to be hot. We want, and I'm not encouraging a lack of diversity by any means.
Right.
But when we're talking about height, I do have a certain issue with this 5'11" business because literally all the girls won't look in his direction.
Yeah. Like, and that's the thing with that show. Like when someone comes on that like no one finds hot, it can really
being coveted
is
a huge element.
But I will say, like, if you are starving for content, like, and you just want like a barrage of episodes and like to see people truly, like, I do feel like on Love Island, like it is similar to Dating Around in that we are watching very genuine conversations. People forget that the cameras are around. People aren't thinking like, oh, I'm being recorded, I'm being watched all the time. Like you get a lot of very real drama, romance, dating, conversations.
And I also feel like we are getting enough content, like enough percentage of their waking hours to feel like I have somewhat of a like an accurate assessment of what's going on and like psychologically what's happening
and like who these people are. Like you really do feel like you know them because you see so much of their lives, you know, play out. So I definitely recommend Love Island, and I think that those two being tied is beautiful symmetry. And last but not least, our number one is Bachelor in Paradise. It's the best of both worlds because you have all of that romance and community that scored so high on Bachelor, Bachelorette. and then you have everything else of the, you know, multiple couples going on at once, drama
fun
between
drama.
everyone,
The fun drama.
enjoyment episode to episode, a better premise, you know, because you're having matching ups and loves triangles and all of that stuff. Like, it's beautiful.
This feels like another instance of Bachelor in Paradise cheating just a little bit, because they got the ultimate. And I don't mean Bachelor is the best of the best in that meaning of the word ultimate, but like, it is the ultimate romance show, and they got to turn it into perfection.
Right.
So they did cheat, but I'll give them, they got my highest score on my sheet as well. They deserve that, but their means of getting there is just like a little bit suspicious.
Yeah. And like, because if you're watching the show, like, you probably already know the characters, you already know the context, and like the setting as well of like always being on the beach is like, once again, great. And just overall, it's really a beautiful show.
And I also think believability is an important element. Like, I believe that the people on Bachelor in Paradise are like feeling genuine things for each other.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, Are You the One, let's say, there's less believability that like these people aren't just doing crazy shit just for like the entertainment value.
Yeah. And like, we were talking about Bachelor, Bachelorette babies. A lot of those babies are from Paradise.
They are already like, there's a fleet of Bachelor in Paradise babies.
Yeah. So honestly, Bachelor in Paradise is very powerful, and it's available to watch and view on Hulu and HBO. And you could also buy it on Amazon Prime, like Gigi and I have. So like, just, I'm so passionate about it. And even if you've never seen The Bachelor or The Bachelorette, you can definitely enjoy some Bachelor in Paradise.
So now I would love if we could just go down the line very quickly and just assess. I just want a quick yes or no. Would you?
Can we say yes, no, or maybe?
Yes, no, or maybe. It's would you be on it? Like, not would you like apply? It's like, if you were offered a spot right now, would you take it?
Okay, yeah.
Bachelor, Bachelorette,
maybe.
Yes.
I say yes. Bachelor in Paradise.
Yes.
Yes. Love Island.
No.
For me, if they would let me be me and they would let me
have my, you can be you.
If they would let me have my body, like if they,
no, they're not gonna like,
they're not gonna say
cut your body off.
Well, but that's what I'm saying is like, if they're accepting me for me, which they wouldn't do,
no,
like they just.
But you just said if you get accepted.
Okay, if they offered me a spot, I'm going.
No, my big problem with Love Island is I do not want to be filmed 24/7 like that.
Okay.
It wouldn't be my preference.
I just think
they get filmed like in the shower. They get filmed like just doing like everything.
I mean, they don't show them.
They don't show them naked, but like,
I just think it has sort of, not that the other ones don't, but I think it has sort of a trashy reputation.
It definitely has a trashy reputation
in my mind, and I just don't really want to be associated with that, being that I have a pristine reputation right now.
It does have a trashy reputation, but like, I would so go on there.
Yeah.
Like, if they offered me, I would go. Okay, Married at First Sight.
No.
My first inclination is
it's an immediate no from me.
No, my first inclination is to go like, hell no, like definitely not. But like, at the same time, the idea, like, first of all, I think that this is how Married at First Sight gets a lot of people, is people go in and they're like, oh, they're interviewing like 100 people. Like, I probably won't get chosen, you know, like the odds of me actually getting chosen. So like, I do think it would be fun to be in that initial 100 and then not get chosen to actually be married. Like, I do. That's the only reason.
If you got offered a spot, meaning you went, okay, here's what I could see. You do it just to be like, oh, I'll interview. And then
you get married.
Offer it and you're like, wait, so my quote unquote soulmate is out there. I have to follow through with it.
Yeah,
I know. But that's the thing. Like, listen, I'm open to the idea of divorce, like if that has to happen. And like, if they're going to tell me like,
budget, Liesel, I think
if the budget was higher, I would be a yes. Like, I would do it.
Okay, now Too Hot to Handle.
No, doesn't fit me.
I'm
not that person.
Yeah, I don't want to be on Too Hot to Handle. Are You the One?
No.
Definitely not.
I wouldn't go on that either. Love Is Blind.
Yes,
1000%.
of course.
Like, way before any of the other. I'm ready to go on it tomorrow.
The only thing is that like, there is like, you are supposed to get married at the end, which is like kind of intense.
Yeah, well, you get engaged immediately.
Yeah,
as soon as you lock eyes,
which is like fine. Like, I'll get engaged as many times as I need to get engaged.
Yeah.
For it to then work out. Like,
yeah, engagement, like breaking off an engagement in that environment,
is not like a big deal. So I would totally do it, but like, the part at the end where you have to like get in a wedding dress and either like say no or say yes at the I do
is uncomfortable.
I wouldn't want to do that.
I 1000% would go.
But I would want to
Yeah.
do the blind like actually the blind dating. Like I would totally do
I
that.
wouldn't want to do the blind dating because like I think I would be freaked out at the idea of like laying eyes on someone after like essentially like people say they are in love in the booth. You
and
know what I
people
mean?
do reveal like their deepest darkest.
Exactly. And like I'm not worried about doing the blind dating aspect to then just be released into the real world. Like it would just be a social experiment where then you do the blind dating portion and then you go meet. And if you're into it, you're into it. If not, there's no expectation that it will continue. I'm totally fine with that. What I'm uncomfortable with is having to get engaged and continue with someone if I couldn't see them. And it's not that I think I'm that like shallow or vain or whatever, but at the same time, like I do think that physical attraction is really important. And not that can't develop. Like I do think there are plenty of people who I've at first sight not necessarily found myself attracted, and then after like getting to know them and knowing their personality, I'm like I totally find them attractive. But I just don't know if I could get on board with the Love is blind pods and then engage, and then you have to do all this stuff.
I'm on board.
Okay, I'm on board because like if I get engaged to like someone who I thought I really liked, you know, in the pod, and then I see them and I'm not attracted to them, like I would get engaged and then I would just be like, I'm so sorry, but like this isn't gonna work.
Yeah, I also don't think I would have that much of an issue being like, this is, you know, we'd be defying the odds if this did work. Like I don't feel bad about being like, I don't see this working. And finally, dating around.
Absolutely.
100%.
100. Like I would love to go on that show.
Absolutely.
This is why I brought up this question, because when we were talking about dating around, I was like, I would love to go on that show.
That'd be
question.
so great.
Would you guys want to be the one or one of the?
I would want to be the one, of course. Like
I would do both.
I would do either. Like if they offered me, you know, be one of the 5, like I would do it. But you know, clearly being the one is a little bit superior.
Totally.
But it does seem tiring.
Yeah.
But anyway, now let's get into what we want to craft. So I'll start off by saying like this kind of like a little inkling of an idea that I do have, and then you girls can tell me like if you want to build off of this or if we should pivot completely.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm thinking like about, you know, Are You the One and like Married at First Sight and like these predestined matches. But one thing that would be interesting that I think for our proposed dating show would be to have somehow a couple of episodes or introduce, you know, 10 guys and 10 girls to the American or the international public. Okay. Introduce them in the first couple of episodes. Then America or the world gets to vote on the couples, on who we think would work well together. And then in a sort of Are You the One?
We see like a speed dating, and then we get to be like, oh, I want to see more of that couple.
Yeah, like we get the intro packages and we get maybe some like little speed dating moments, and then
because I do think I think we would need more than just their own intro packages. We need to see some interaction between people and potentially take into account what they like, who they feel attracted to, what they
like
see
they would say their
out.
preferences. So, but like we get to be the matchmakers.
Totally.
And then basically like, even if let's just say like Lilly and David, let's just say Lilly and David are
such a good
are
couple.
Cast on the show, and I think like I ship Lilly and David when I see the speed dating, and so I vote for them. But America votes like Lilly and Charles, you know, but I get to be like, no, like I always thought it was Lilly and David. And then at the end, like we just let them like naturally like try to find each other. Like it's not like, you know, we tell them like, oh, you know, this guy is your pair. No, we do match them up, but
but we don't make them.
No, we don't make them pair. Like they have to find each other or find who they want. So then you can either be like, oh, I was right, and like I got it, or like I was wrong.
Okay. So what's the format of the show? Still more freeform? They're all in a house together and they're just finding who they think they want to be with?
Yeah. But this is where I'm saying like we need to like brainstorm together and kind of build off of this, because that's really just episode 1. You know, that's just the very beginning.
Okay, what I like about this is a slightly elongated intro package, because personally, no matter what type of reality show I'm watching, I always love getting to know my characters.
Yeah, totally. I completely agree.
A lot of the time, they only do the most interesting ones or they cut them really short.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of
and I can
dragging
agree.
that out a little
It
bit.
gets a little annoying when you don't like. I know that they can't necessarily do intro packages for everyone, but like I feel a little annoyed when we don't get an intro package for everyone on The Bachelor,
Yeah.
Bachelorette, because I'm like, who are these people? And I
Totally.
get that there are 30 of them. We can't do all intro packages, but that's why we have 5 girls, 5 guys, or would you say 10?
What did I say? I think I said 10 and 10, but maybe we do 5 and 5.
Actually, I'm okay with 10
I think
and 10.
10 and 10 could work.
Yeah, because I think 5
like
and
that
5
number.
is too few.
Yeah.
Okay, so 10 and 10, and I think getting 20 intro packages is reasonable enough.
And if you split it up over, let's say, 2
Yeah.
episodes, that's totally fine. Okay, what are the types of people? Like, are we getting Instagram thirst monsters? Are we getting normal people?
Like, I think the ideal would be a Love is Blind type of population where people are generally attractive, you know, no one is like heinous, and it's diverse, it's, you know, modern, fresh, but it's not too millennial, like, you know.
And are we
dating
gonna
around.
have only straight couples?
well,
for season 1, definitely, I would say.
If you don't, and
Mhm.
it's just a free-for-all, that does sort of complicate
Well, I'm not saying it's a free-for-all, but like, what if you have, let's say, of the 20, 5 are bi?
Okay,
that could work.
interesting.
That
Or
could
like,
work.
so I, you know, honestly, we would have to crunch some numbers and like actually do some mathematics to like make sure that that would still work out where everyone gets their pair. But like, I do think it would be interesting to give the opportunity for some, you know, non-heteronormative couples to explore that, you know, that possibility.
Totally.
I also like that brings in a novelty, which is that I've never seen a show that does crossover of two sexual orientations,
which is more representative of the real world.
Absolutely.
You know,
like it's like obviously with Are You the One, for example, we had our pansexual seasons, which are so great and different, and we love that.
But it's
I've never
little
seen.
It's also a little like
that is overwhelming.
Amorphous.
Yeah.
It's a little too like all over the place.
Yes.
But combining like straight people and bi people, like I like that we've never seen that in a dating show.
And the other thing is like, well, we have seen Demi from Bachelor, Bachelorette went on Bachelor in Paradise, but there were no other gay women or bi women to be with her, so she had to do it yourself and bring on her. Bring your own girlfriend.
Yeah,
which is exactly what I'm saying. I like that our DIY version of a dating show has some unique element to it, and I think this is just that.
Right. Or like 10 bi people, like I don't know, you know, something like that.
Some ratio of the people, like I love that element.
And for me, I think agency is super important. Like as much as I do think that the expert stuff is fun and cool, I personally prefer, and I think there's greater success with people getting to feel stuff out for themselves. Like the Love is Blind, I really appreciate that although there's like this social experiment aspect, it truly is them like finding out for themselves if they feel a connection with people.
Yeah. And like maybe like America or the world keeps voting like week after week.
Yeah.
And there is some element of like change. And like maybe like at the end of each week, like they all have to couple up. And then like America votes like, oh, do we think that they made good couples? Did they make bad couples? Did they like get the accurate couples that America had thought? Like, I don't know. There's still a lot to work out, and we're not TV producers, but I do think we're getting somewhere.
And are there challenges or there's no challenges?
I would like some challenges.
I think challenges and dates. I think challenges and dates.
They
like,
can kind of maybe somehow go like together a little bit.
I think what I would want as far as challenges is fewer like physical challenges, and I mean that both,
more get to know each other challenges.
I mean both like physical as in like kissing whatever, and like row in a kayak, you know, like I'm saying physical across the board. Like they don't really add that much, whereas if we could add more psychological games, I think that would be really interesting.
I completely agree.
And like I don't know exactly what those would look like, but I do think dates and games of the psychological nature would be fun.
Yeah, maybe there's like a team of psychologists and like relationship like experts that come in and like run the challenges.
Yeah, and that's where you get in the little bit of
like
scientific.
even for example, the Too Hot to Handle when Shanjambudi, I don't actually know what her name is. I'm so sorry. I don't know what it is. It's something. It's like Shan. Like she goes by Shan, but I think her last name is Budram. But I think her Instagram is Shan Booty or something. I'm messing it up. Anyways,
I don't remember who you're talking about.
the woman who comes on and is like, let's take a look at your yonis and let's talk about your yonis and draw your yoni.
Yeah, the yoni.
And whatever they did with the guys to like break down their toxic masculinity. Like,
right.
I do think that those kinds of challenge,
self-improvement sort of challenges.
Exactly. Either it's like a retreat.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's like a wellness retreat.
But also the psychological games.
Yeah.
You know. And are we doing like a destination or is it going to be set in a city?
No, I think this should be on an island for sure.
Okay.
Like
tropical.
Why not? Tropical. Why not?
Why not?
And like, but I also do think like with Love Island, like they're on the beautiful island of Mallorca and they're just really not embracing the island as much as I wish they were.
Right.
You know, like they're pretty much in their house or they're just like sipping sangria like on the street. I wish that there was a little bit more of like cultural dates going on or like adventure dates like on Bachelor Bachelorette when they do like bungee jumping or like skydiving. Like I do think that that is a good bonding experience when people experience adrenaline and adventure
or like
together.
Even on Bachelor Bachelorette when they get to like go on a boat for the day.
Go on a boat, go on like a bike ride, like, you know,
go ATV.
Really like explore and like do stuff that's like adventurous and fun and like cute, you know?
And that also makes it more appealing to like the average person to want to be on. You know what I mean? Like getting to go do those things is kind of like an appealing aspect.
And I think like the people
as a participant,
the people who get to do dates are the ones who are like doing the most like psychological growth.
Okay.
That's a great idea.
And I do like the element of America voting, but not necessarily that we are like directly affecting what's going to happen to them. And like maybe we will in some ways, but I don't think that America should play God.
Definitely not.
Okay.
So there you go. That's our show. We need to come up with a title.
Totally. And I mean, I hope no one's like tries to steal.
Yeah.
No, but like if there are producers listening that like wanted to factor this into account, like I'd be willing to
work with you for like a, you know, for a certain amount of compensation.
But like if it means that I get to watch this perfect show
that
on
is,
TV,
like
we can do a trade-off here.
Well, but I think that we should at least be like allowed to come be on the set once.
Well, and like everyone on the show would have to wear Sophomore Citizens t-shirts.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one, Lily.
Of course. And like we're talking to you like Netflix, Hulu, Amazon. I'm sorry, but TLC, MTV, you guys can stay home. All right. Well, I mean, basically this episode was one giant recommendation. Let's be real.
Yep.
But do you girls have any other recommendations?
I have a food recommendation, which is if you've not had the Trader Joe's JoJo's that are peppermint encrusted, they are.
I'm pretty sure you recommended this last episode.
For real?
Really?
Yes.
Oh my God, that's just even more.
Because it was holiday season.
I probably did then, but go get them.
Yeah. That's it. So go watch some love and romance shows, and please let us know if you know of any that we missed.
What's are there
Circle?
That's like
I watched like one episode of that and I was not vibing with
that one. They do way too much social media.
Yeah, it's like all dependent on.
Yeah, do our people have phones or they don't have phones?
No phones.
Well, Lily, like on Love Island, Australia, the way that they have phones is really fun because they literally just like take selfies and they post them to their social media.
Like a social media team posts their Instagram. It's like BTS. Like you get BTS on their Instagram.
I do also think that it's 3 episodes a week and it is happening in real time.
And the episodes are short.
And the episodes are 45 minutes.
Thank you. No,
which I don't think is short.
Well, it's an hour.
It's an hour, but 15 minutes.
That's fine.
No, we're not gonna have ads. We're on
streaming,
Netflix.
So we're like a 50-minute episode.
Yeah, 40, anywhere from 40 to 60 is reasonable.
I would say a little less than 60 if it were entirely up to me. I don't want them to have phones, but I can.
We have some things to work out.
We'll think about it. All right. And with that, thank you for listening to Sophomore Citizens, the podcast by young people for young people with new episodes whenever we feel like it. What's next?
So we'll see you guys, babies, then. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And you could email us at sophomorecitizens@gmail.com if you have anything that you want to say to us. And make sure to leave a 5-star review.